Can I have your attention, please? Let's all please rise and join us in saying the Pledge of Allegiance. Right over there. I pledge allegiance to the flag Please remain standing for the singing of our national anthem. Thank you. Please be seated. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Mr. Hills. I teach juniors and seniors here. And before we get started with our program, I just want to explain why you guys got out of class this afternoon and why you're here. We are here for an early observance of Veterans Day. Veterans Day is a U.S. holiday which honors Americans who have served in the armed forces. It is a federal holiday, and it is observed every year on November 11th. For many years, November 11th was called Armistice Day because on November 11th, 1918, the armistice or ceasefire that ended World War I was signed, and that officially ended the Great War, now known as in history as World War I. Every Veterans Day is special, but in 2 days, this coming Sunday, at 11 o'clock in the morning, the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month, it will officially mark the 100th anniversary of the end of World War I. For many years after 1918, November 11th was called Armistice Day until 1954, when an act of Congress officially changed the name of Armistice Day to Veterans Day, and it's been called Veterans Day ever since. Since November 11th falls on a Sunday this year, the federal holiday is actually observed this coming Monday. However, we decided to have our school program today so that you will hopefully have a better understanding and appreciation for Veterans Day this weekend and also on the Monday holiday when we return to school. Now, typically on Veterans Day, you juniors and seniors might recall that we have speeches from local veterans. This year, we decided to do something a little different. We are going to recognize a couple of veterans here today, but in a minute, some of your classmates are going to read excerpts of actual letters written by local soldiers who either lived or trained 100 years ago at the Army reservation known as Fort Thomas, a place right up the street that we now call Tower Park. The songs that you hear today from our amazing chorus and band are from World War I as well. To my right is the narrator of our real-life story, Miss Maddie Burnett. To my left, reading the actual letters of local World War I soldiers, are Grant Sauer, who will be reading the letters of Sidney Wilshire. Braxton Broering will be reading the letters of Clarence Cornish. Peter Lasky will be reading the letters of Robert D. Johnson. Yes, that's the same Robert D. Johnson that the school's named after. And Carter Bechtel will be reading the letters of Charlie Beck. Again, What you are about to hear for the next 15 minutes is real. These are real letters from real people who lived here and served in World War I exactly 100 years ago. This is not fiction. This is not fake news. Remember, freedom was not free in 1918, and it's not free today 100 years later. Ladies and gentlemen, our narrator, Maddie Burnett.
In June 1914, Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria was assassinated, sparking the beginnings of what became known as the Great War. The United States stayed out of the conflict in Europe initially. There was enough to deal with in this country, as a Mexican revolutionary named Pancho Villa was holding raids that sometimes crossed the border into the United States. Local resident Sidney Gordon Wilshire, 22 years old, joined the Army and was sent to Camp Willis in Ohio for training.
July 16th, 1916, Camp Willis, Columbus, Ohio. Dear Jim, the whole Mexican affair is, I believe, a farce, as far as we are concerned. It gives President Wilson an opportunity to demonstrate to the preparedness advocates his ability to mobilize an army at a given point in a short space of time. I hope it is not necessary to send our fellows into Mexico, but if necessary, I am ready and willing. Your friend, Sidney G. Wilshire.
In Europe, the Germans decided to wage war on all ships that approached Great Britain, even ships from neutral countries like the United States. 3 ocean liners carrying passengers that included U.S. citizens were torpedoed, causing massive loss of life. The Germans torpedoed 4 U.S. merchant marine vessels as well, turning the tide of American public opinion against the Germans. A telegram offering the turn of lost territory if Mexico entered the war as German ally may have been the final straw. And the U.S. entered the Great War in April 1917. Clarence Cornish, an 18-year-old from Indiana, signed up for the Army right away and came to Fort Thomas for his first posting.
May 3rd, 1917, Company 22nd, Squadron 33, Fort Thomas, Kentucky. Dear Mother and all, say, you folks must think that we're having an awful time up here. Well, you'd better change your mind right away. We sleep pretty well. Mattress, 2 heavy woolen blankets, plus a good cot. The food here is better than I expected when I first left home. We've had pie 3 times since I've been here. December 12th, 1917, Wednesday morning, 7 a.m., Fort Thomas, Kentucky. Dear folks, just a few lines written in great haste to let you know that I'm as well as ever and working hard. I will endeavor to give you some idea of the huge amount of work we are doing now in comparison with the work previous to about a week ago. We formally recruited about 75 to 100 men. We are now recruiting in about 500 a day. We are working day and night to get them all measured up for clothes and to get them examined. Then, there is hardly accommodations for so many men here. We are filled to overflowing right now. December 14th, 1917, Fort Thomas, Kentucky. Dear folks, I've been accepted for the Signal ORC training. I don't know where I'll go to ground school, nor flying school, but I do know that I will leave here sometime around New Year's Day. Love to all, Clarence.
While Clarence was training for the Signal Corps, Sidney was training for the Field Artillery. Career soldier Samuel Woodville, who had already served in the Philippines, Alaska, and Mexico, headed to France 2 months after marrying local girl Lorraine Wiltshire. Robert D. Johnson completed his basic training and was heading to France.
Postmarked January 23rd, 1918, somewhere at sea. Dear Claude, and well and having a good time. Hope everybody's okay at home. Write and tell me all the news, and a home paper will look good. A difficult matter to find anything to say, so just these few lines to let you know that I'm still well and happy and not neglecting my meals. Also, hope I find a way to mail this to you. Lots of love to Mother, Sarah, you, and the kids. Also to Miss Cornelia. Regards to my friends who may inquire about me, and don't neglect writing. Lovingly, Bob.
March 27th, 1918, Leon Springs Training Camp, Camp Stanley, Texas. Dear Jimmy, we have been having instructions in the use of gas masks this week, and believe me, I sympathize with the men on the other side who must wear them for hours. We wore ours for 30 minutes during a short march yesterday, and I was never so relieved in my life when I took the blamed thing off. Your old pal, Sid.
April 24th, 1918, Squadron 11, Camp Dick, Texas. They are easing up a bit on us lately on drilling. We only had about 4 hours of drilling on Monday, besides the normal radio class and the usual afternoon parade. 8:15 p.m., May 27th, 1918, Parkfield, Monday. Dear Mother, just back from evening mess, and I have a few minutes in which to tell you that, well, I did it today. I made 3 rides around the field alone this evening, making 3 landings and 3 takeoffs alone. My work was very good, according to Mr. Brock, my instructor, who had said that my turns and glides into the field were splendid. In fact, all the fellows said that Mr. Brock was asking them all to notice my turns into the field. And for this good work, I am now ready to take off my first solo work, chiefly taking off, flying around the corners of the field, and landing. I'm not through by a long shot. However, I'm just getting a good start. That's all. Love to all, Clarence.
France, July 20th, 1918. Dear Jimmy, well, old top, we're here at last in the land of the fleur-de-lis, and we will probably sojourn here for several weeks. I wish our training period was over and we were ready for the real service, but rehearsals must be held before we can take part in the big performance, and I suppose they will be over soon enough. Your old pal, Sid.
On September 1st, 1918, Robert D. Johnson's mother received the following telegram.
Deeply regret to inform you that information has just been received from abroad that Sergeant Robert Dimmitt Johnson, Marine Corps, was killed in action June 8th. Body will be interred abroad until end of war. Please accept my heartfelt sympathy in your great loss. Your son bravely gave his life in the service of his country. George Barnett, Major General Commandant.
Although the Johnson family grieved, as did millions of other families, life and the war continued.
France, September 15th, 1918. Dear Jim, the reports from the front are coming in daily, and they certainly are full of good news. Anglo-French forces advancing on the Hindenburg Line, American troops drive Germans out of San Miguel sector, etc. Everything making the boys and I more jubilant. I don't think the big show can last much longer, and with the moderate winter, the Germans will be on their knees by spring. Then the final shouting in the States.
October 1st, 1918, postmarked Payne, BR, West Point, Mississippi. Tuesday night, Hangar 4. Dear Mother, well, I expect to leave here sometime within the next 2 weeks. My name was posted this PM, along with 32 others, to turn in our pilot books in to the flying office before 9 a.m., which simply means that we will be on the next outgoing orders. Where we will go, I can't say, but I have a hunch that we will spend a couple months in Florida and then go across to Europe. Again, they may be Hoboken orders, we never can tell. From what I hear, the post is under quarantine for the Spanish influenza. We are having our throats and noses sprayed 2 to 3 times a day now. Love and kisses for all, Clarence.
The Spanish flu pandemic of 1918 struck approximately 5 million people worldwide and killed 21 million, but the war went on. Fort Thomas Military Reservation became a hospital and cared for nearly 900 soldiers who came down with the flu. At least 40 of those soldiers died. The Beck brothers from Philadelphia, Charles and Harper, arrived at the height of the quarantine early in October and served as orderlies.
October 16th, 1918, Fort Thomas. My dear mother, several of the boys have received papers from Philly. I see it is very bad. I mean, the flu. I do hope you and the children are all taking very good care of yourselves. It is about over here, and we expect them to lift the quarantine any day. I do hope they hurry, as we are certainly getting very tired of staying here. It certainly was scary back in Philly. I see by Saturday's bulletin that there were over 5,000 deaths last week. I wonder if any of my friends have gone. I hope not, and certainly am very glad that you folks at home have kept well. 2 or 3 of the boys from Philly died here. boys that came down in the same train as us. In fact, one boy from 5th Glennock Street who slept next to me died with it. October 24th, 1918. It is just 3 weeks today since we left home. I will tell you a lot that Harper nor I dared not to mention for fear of worrying you. The first Tuesday here, the flu got very bad, so Harper and I were both called for hospital duty. We had to report Tuesday 6 p.m. and work all night to 7 a.m. I had one ward with 30 men, all with the flu. I sure was scared to death, as I was sick myself, but I could not give in as I did not want to be put in the hospital. Still waiting to hear where we go from here, but I've not heard anything as of yet, nor have they lifted the quarantine. Your loving son, Charlie.
On October 12th, Samuel Woodville earned a Medal of Honor by clearing 3 German machine gun nests in one day, leading him to be called the most outstanding soldier in the American Expeditionary Forces by General Pershing.
October 26th, 1918, Carl Storm Field, Arcadia, Florida. I seem to be getting along very well in my formation flying, and I hope to do the same good work hereafter. I guess I never will see France, and I'm beginning to be reconciled to it somewhat now. It's a known fact now that we will be made instructors for about 6 weeks after we complete our course. That means about February. Very, very tired, so. Good night to all. Love and kisses, Clarence.
October 30th, 1918. My dear mother. Well, we did pull something over on you, but we knew we could not tell you while it was going on. First of all, I will tell you that we were both well and went through it without any ill effects. We both had masks to wear, and we would take medicine every evening to keep us from getting sick. If it was our time to go, we would get it whether we were doctors or just men in the camps, as I think when your time comes, you will get it no matter where you are or what you're doing. Your loving son, Charlie.
Even though the armistice had been signed on November 11th, there was still work to be done.
France, November 29th, 1918. This next week will be, I think, the end of our work here, if the weather is good. And then I think we will join a squadron with the Army of Occupation in Germany, which should add a great deal more to my experiences here. Everything is going along fine and having the time of my life. But when days like yesterday, Thanksgiving come around, I'll tell you there's no place like home. We had a wonderful time and a wonderful meal yesterday, and considering everything, we were well satisfied. Wishing you a very Merry Christmas. And with all best wishes, your old pal Sid.
Sidney Wilshire came home in the fall of 1919 and went to work for Procter & Gamble. Cornelius Cornish also came home in 1919 and stayed in the Army Reserves, reactivated in 1941. He became a training officer for the bomber pilots, serving until the end of World War II. The Brett brothers' enlistment ended in January 1919, and both went back home to Philadelphia. Samuel Woodville was selected as one of the original honorary tomb guards for the dedication of the Tomb of the Unknown Soldiers in March 1921. The Woodvilles lived here in Fort Thomas until Lorene's death. Robert D. Johnson was posthumously awarded the French Croix de Guerre, Gallantry and Service, and on August 25, 1921, his brother Claude sent a telegram.
I will accompany your remains. Arrive Cincinnati 9:10 Thursday morning. R.V. Bowen will escort remains of Sergeant Robert Dimmitt Johnson to Cincinnati. Have Costigan and Roll meet train. I'll phone immediately upon arrival.
Following funeral services, Robert Johnson was buried at Highland Cemetery in Fort Mitchell, September 21, 1921. The Great War was finally over for Fort Thomas.
Over there is a patriotic song that was written in 1917 by George Cohen as a rallying song for the nation when the U.S. entered World War I. It immediately became one of the most popular songs of its generation and was performed and recorded by many people over the course of decades. It is best remembered for its chorus, "The Yanks Are Coming." The song gained popularity again in World War II and earned a place in American patriotism when President Roosevelt awarded a Congressional Gold Medal for Cohen in this song and other songs. Today, Highlands choirs will be performing this classic song over there.
Like I said earlier, we're not going to have any veteran speeches today like we usually do, but I do want to recognize three distinguished guests to Highlands High School here today. All three of them are Highlands graduates. And on my right here, first we have Dr. Dan Beinecke. Dr. Beinecke is a 1959 Highlands graduate. He was a great athlete here. He played football and basketball and served our country in the Air Force during the Vietnam War in 1969, 1970. Please give a warm Highlands welcome to Dr. Beinecke. Next, we have Mrs. Deanna Beinecke. She's the sister-in-law of Dr. Beinecke. And Mrs. Beinecke is a former teaching colleague of mine from way back when at some school out in Boone County. And Mrs. Beinecke graduated from here in 1965. She's not a military veteran. However, her father served in World War II. He was in Patton's Army. Mrs. Beinecke is the director of the Fort Thomas Military Museum up at Tower Park, which is really a phenomenal place. It's a great treasure to this community. And Mrs. Beinecke spent countless hours going through these soldiers' letters, and she condensed them for us to use in the program here today. Please give a warm welcome to Mrs. Deanna Beinecke. Also, we have Mr. David Thiel. Mr. Thiel is a 1981 Highlands graduate. Many of you probably know him. Mr. Thiel has been a guy who has done a tremendous amount over the years for our Veterans Day program here at Highlands. He has gotten several distinguished veterans here over the years, and he works tirelessly behind the scenes to do that, and we so appreciate everything that he does for this school. He's a veteran of he's a U.S. Navy Corpsman veteran. Please give a warm welcome to Mr. David Thiel. And now we're going to go back to Maddie, and she's going to read the famous World War I poem, In Flanders Fields.
In Flanders Fields. In Flanders Fields the poppies blow, between the crosses row and row that mark our place, and in the sky the larks still bravely sing, fly, scarce heard amid the guns below. We are the dead. Short days ago, we lived, felt dawn, saw sunset glow, loved and were loved, and now we lie in Flanders Fields. Take up our quarrel with foe. To you from failing hands we throw the torch, be yours to hold it high. If ye break faith with us who die, we shall not sleep, though poppies grow in Flanders Fields.
Just a few final remarks before you guys head back to sixth period to end our day. Many thanks again to our three guests here today. Again, please give them another hand. Dr. Beinecke, Mrs. Beinecke, Director of the Fort Thomas Military Museum, Mr. Thiel, and just want to let you guys know that our student readers will repeat this program tomorrow at noon at the Charters of Freedom at Tower Park, so you're all invited to that. And one last thing here before we break today, I want to get you guys involved for a minute. If you have a relative who is currently serving in the United States military right now, if you have a relative who's currently serving in the military right now, please stand up. It could be your brother, your sister, dad, mom, aunt, uncle, cousin, whoever. Please give these veterans a hand. You know, keep in mind, guys, our veterans make unbelievable sacrifices for us, and family members make sacrifices as well. And for the rest of you, please, you guys remain standing, the people who we just called out there. Please remain standing. All right, now, here's another thing. For the rest of you, if you have, anybody here, if you have a relative who has ever served in the U.S. military, grandma, grandpa, great-grandpa, great-uncle, all right, that's probably everybody in this room, right? Please give them a hand right now. And I'll leave you with this. Remember, this weekend and beyond, freedom is not free. May God bless our veterans. May God bless the United States of America. Go back to sixth period. Have a great weekend. Happy Veterans Day, everybody.